Here we go. This is the Skip Bayless Show, episode 54. This, as always, is the Undisputed. Everything I cannot share with you during the 2.5-hour debate show that is undisputed. Today, I will tell you why Russell Westbrook has haunted me the way no other athlete has haunted me in my entire career. Today, I will answer several more of your probing, provocative questions, these concerning Dak and LeBron and the 5 NBA players I would choose if I wanted to go win a championship right now. I will shock you with my 5. And finally today, I will tell you all about my all-time basketball idol, Pistol Pete, the alien from another planet, whose all-time collegiate scoring record is in danger of being broken as we speak. But first up, as always, it is not to be skipped. Allow me to tell you why Russell Westbrook is either the greatest bad basketball player ever or the worst great basketball player ever. I'm still not sure which it is. Maybe I'll get to the bottom of it in a moment. But please allow me to tell you why Russell Westbrook has been the bane of my professional existence, how he has haunted me and tormented me, and how he continues to torture me as the newest addition to the team I picked before the season to win it all this year. The other LA team, the Clippers. Wait a second. Russell Westbrook is a Clipper? It cannot be. But it is. Wait, the Lakers were stuck with the rust that the Lakers miraculously got out from under so that the Clippers could fall right into the same Russell Westbrook trap that LeBron and the Lakers had fallen into and couldn't get out of, but escaped. Only in Hollywood. I'll get back to that in just a moment. But first, allow me to tell you, to recount my personal history with Russell Westbrook. God bless him. As you might know, I do pride myself on being pretty good year after year after year, predicting which college players in both basketball and football can become professional stars. So back in the earliest days of my time on national TV on a show called Cold Pizza on ESPN2, I started raving about this kid down in Austin, Texas, this kid named Durant who was playing for the University of Texas. I hate Texas. Born and raised, I was an Oklahoma Sooner fan, so I hate everything orange about Texas. But I started loving this kid Durant from Washington, D.C. How he wound up in Austin, I don't know. Don't get me started. But I predicted greatness for that kid in Austin. I predicted he would win multiple NBA scoring titles. And several of my coworkers on Cold Pizza laughed at me for this prediction until one day we had on Kansas coach Bill Self, who was being interviewed by our moderator, Jay Crawford, on a segment called First and 10 on Cold Pizza. And Bill Self interrupted his interview to say, hey, I just wanted to tell Skip that he is right about Kevin Durant. We can't guard him, said University of Kansas University coach Bill Self. So, as you might remember, the Portland Trail Blazers unfortunately took Greg Oden number 1 overall, he of the shaky feet. Kevin Durant went second to Seattle, which would soon to become, Oklahoma City? Now understand, I grew up in Oklahoma City. The game I played best was baseball. The game I loved the most was basketball. The game I watched the most was football because of the aforementioned University of Oklahoma I was born into that tradition. Football was everything in Oklahoma, and especially in Oklahoma City. Norman, where OU is a suburb of Oklahoma City. Oklahoma basketball was always pretty great, but hey, there was a team called Oklahoma City University, a national power through the 1960s. I was a season ticket holder. There was a tournament I'll get to in a few minutes called the All-College Tournament, which was a national draw for many of the top basketball teams of the 50s and 60s, way before your time, I'm sure. But in the end, Oklahoma was a football state, not a basketball state. So when I was growing up there in Oklahoma City, if you told me that one day Oklahoma City would have its very own NBA team, I would have said, yeah, right. And the Dallas Cowboys are about to move north from Dallas to Oklahoma City and become the Oklahoma City Cowboys. Not going to happen. Laughable. No way. But wait a second. The Seattle Supersonics became the Oklahoma City Thunder? I love the name Thunder. It's a cool name. And all of a sudden, wait a second. Let me get this straight. Kevin Durant, the player I was raving about at the University of Texas, has a new home base of Oklahoma City? What? I was going to get to watch Kevin Durant play for the Thunder? I mean, the closest thing I'd seen to Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City was when the Globetrotters, you might remember the Globetrotters, made their annual visit to play the convention center downtown Oklahoma City, and I got to watch Meadow Lark Lemon. More on him in just a moment. He was magic. So then came the following year's draft, and with the 4th overall selection, the newly founded Oklahoma City Thunder took what? Somebody named Russell Westbrook out of UCLA? Oh, wait, one pick ahead of Kevin Love, the big star at UCLA that year. And I thought, Sam Presti, young GM of the Thunder, swing and miss, bad idea. I did not see Russell Westbrook coming, but who did except for Sam Presti? I watched a lot of UCLA basketball when Russ was a freshman. That team went 30-6, you might remember, and lost to Florida in the national semifinals. Watched a lot of that team. I didn't even notice Russell Westbrook. Never caught my eye. He averaged 9 minutes a game. Not 9 points a game, 9 minutes a game. He did have one start that year. He actually averaged 3 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist as a freshman at UCLA. Now, obviously, great young players, future Hall of Famers, are invariably one and dones. See Kevin Durant. You play for 1 year in college because the law makes you, the law of the land. I don't know how they get away with it. Maybe they'll do away with it again. But these young future NBA stars are forced to go to college for 1 year unless they go to the G League or overseas or whatever. But 1 year of college, and they are done with college, but not Russ. He had to go back for his sophomore season because I'm pretty sure if he had declared for the draft after his freshman season, maybe Sam Presti would have seen fit to take him, but I think he might have gone undrafted. I couldn't see a thing. So back he went to UCLA as a sophomore, and he did start for that team that was led by a freshman named Kevin Love, who averaged 18 points and 11 big boards. Next on the team in scoring was Darren Collison, who averaged 15 points. And I'll give Russ this. As a sophomore, he did average 13 points, and he did lead the team in assists at, you ready for this, 4.3. He averaged 4.3 assists per game. That was it. Didn't exactly scream 4th overall pick, future slam dunk, first ballot Hall of Famer. I watched a lot of that team that Russ played on. Never really flashed for me, did Russ. Never caught my eye. Kevin Love did, the strength and his skill. Darren Collison did with his quicker than the eye quickness. But hey, if you told me at that point, at any of those moments, that I was watching in Russell Westbrook a future top 75 all-time player, a future first ballot slam dunk Hall of Famer, a future revolutionary player in the NBA, I would have laughed out loud. What? No. That team lost to Memphis in the national semifinal. And in that draft, Derrick Rose went first overall, obviously out of Memphis. Michael Beasley went second. O.J. Mayo, you remember him, went third. And this kid named Westbrook went fourth, one pick ahead of Kevin Love. I guess Sam Presti was right, although just me, I'd still take Kevin Love over Russell Westbrook because I believe that Russell Westbrook is just simply more trouble than he has ever been worth. More on that in a moment. So you can imagine my shock when pretty soon Russell Westbrook began shooting more shots per game than Kevin Durant? Wait a minute. The same Russ who just averaged 13 points a game at UCLA was taking more shots than the greatest tall shooter I'd ever seen. Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall. Listen, mid-range, deadliest shooter I've ever seen. Seen some new stats on this. On dribble mid-range shots, he has revolutionized the game. Nobody makes them at a higher clip, a deadlier clip than Kevin Durant. I saw him coming. I might have been first to market with Kevin Durant. And wait, the little guy from UCLA who came from nowhere has the audacity to take more shots a game than Kevin bleeping Durant? At this point, I'm on First Take on ESPN, and I began to criticize Russell Westbrook for taking too many shots. And I came up with the nickname West Brick, because especially from three-point range, he laid enough bricks to build a second brick town, which, if you know downtown Oklahoma City, you probably don't, but Brick Town is the sort of restaurant / entertainment district very near where the Thunder play. West Brick, Brick Town. I thought it worked. But by the way, in the one finals that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook played together, obviously it was 2012 against LeBron's Heat, in those 5 games, because it was over in 5, West Brick went 3 of 22 from 3. That's 14%, just for the record. So, here we had one of the greatest shooters ever, certainly greatest 7-foot shooters ever in Kevin Durant, versus one of the worst three-point shooters I had ever seen in West Brick. And would you believe that Kevin Durant soon thought I was completely out of line defending him versus Westbrook? That's what happened. It was one night before a home game. Kevin Durant called over the beat writer from the Oklahoma City paper, which I grew up reading, loving, living for. It's called the Oklahoman. Called the beat writer over, and he had something to get off his chest to the beat writer. He blasted me, did Kevin Durant. He said, I don't know, and I'm just going to say the word, I don't know shit about basketball, said Kevin Durant to the Oklahoman beat writer. He said that anybody who did know shit about basketball would understand why Kevin Durant has no problem with Russell Westbrook taking more shots. Now, obviously, to me, Kevin was just being a good teammate. He was defending his little brother, Russ, against the big, bad national commentator. I grudgingly admired that, yet Kevin Durant did not realize at that moment what a monster he was creating, a monster that would ultimately devour him in Oklahoma City. Speaking of that 2012 NBA Finals, those were the days I actually read my Twitter responses, my ats, my mentions. And ahead of that 2012 finals in Oklahoma City. It started games 1 and 2 in Oklahoma City. I received a cavalcade, a parade, a bombardment, a barrage of death threats, all from Oklahoma City fans ahead of First Take going on the road to the finals, ripping me, threatening me for criticizing Russell Westbrook. Our ESPN at that point security department deemed several of these threats so legitimate that it was decided I needed high-level 24-hour security every second I was in my hometown of Oklahoma City. Think about that. Thunder fans were all over me because I was all over Russell Westbrook in defense of Kevin Durant. Would you believe that Russell Westbrook had become even more beloved in Oklahoma City than Kevin Durant because Russ played so hard every single dribble? And here I was. Think about this. I am making my triumphant return to my hometown as a newly successful national TV commentator on First Take, and I need a bodyguard every step of the way because I have dared to criticize Russell Westbrook. It wasn't just any bodyguard that was arranged for me. I had an LAPD officer who bodyguarded the chief of police in LA. This was a stoutly built gentleman. He was a gentleman who was a bad you-know-what, who looked a little like Odd Job in the, if you know, the early Bond movie Goldfinger. My bodyguard was a great guy. He was a great bodyguard. He made me feel totally safe. But the first day in town, I took my now late mother to lunch, her favorite restaurant, PF Chang's. And my bodyguard had to stand a few feet away from our table, scanning the lunch crowd at PF Chang's as my mother and I caught up. It was surreal. I'm in my hometown, and my life is in jeopardy. So it was surreal to me that A, my hometown had an NBA team, that B, that team was in the NBA Finals, and that C, I was in jeopardy of losing my life because I was defending the one true superstar on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Go figure. Before game one, my man Stephen A. Smith and I were waiting to do a live shot on the pregame sports center. Cameras set up along the baseline, sort of near the corner, down in the corner, but right on the baseline. Russell Westbrook, as he was warming up, this is, I don't know, hour and a half before the game, 2 hours before, he dribbled over, got within 4 or 5 feet of me, and just stood there, basketball underarm, smiling sarcastically and shaking his head at me. I did glance at him, but I decided to ignore him. But you know me, if he had engaged, I definitely would have responded. He said nothing, so neither did I. As I left the arena, I had to go back to the hotel to change clothes, and I had to weave through the early arriving fans, and I got bombarded with hoots and catcalls and I guess you could say threats, but I had Odd Job with me, and he navigated the crowd, but I took a verbal beating from the Oklahoma City Thunder fans, the likes of which I've never experienced anywhere before or since. Oklahoma City did win game one, you might remember, but halftime of game two, a game they would lose to LeBron and company. The great Magic Johnson, then working for ESPN and ABC, said that Russell Westbrook had played the worst half of basketball any point guard had ever played in the NBA Finals. Ever played in the NBA Finals. After losing that game, we went on to Miami, where the Thunder lost Game 3, Game 4, Game 5. LeBron finally, as he said, it's about damn time, had his first ring. But from that point on, Russell Westbrook made Kevin Durant's basketball life more and more miserable. I was the first to report from a source very close to Kevin that he finally decided he could not win a championship in Oklahoma City with Russell Westbrook as his primary decision maker. It was Russell Westbrook who dribbled the ball up the floor every single time for those Thunder. He got to decide, your turn or my turn, and too often it was Russ's turn. Egomaniacal is Russell Westbrook. So the NBA world was shook up when on that 4th of July, Kevin Durant joined forces with a Golden State team that Oklahoma City had down 3-1 in the previous year's conference finals. I was not shocked. Kevin Durant was entering his 10th year in the league. He wanted to maximize his chances of winning a ring. And by golly, he won 2 rings with 2 finals MVPs, and I was impressed. Weight of the NBA world on his slender shoulders. The Slim Reaper stood the tallest he's ever stood in LeBron's house in games 3 back-to-back years. He stuck it to LeBron and ultimately won back-to-back finals MVPs. Way to go, Kevin Durant. As much as you have blasted me, I have defended you. I also was told that Kevin Durant had gotten sick and tired of Oklahoma City management treating Russell Westbrook like he was the biggest star in Oklahoma City. Sam Presti loved him some Russ because, remember, Russ was his diamond in the rough pick, his discovery, the one nobody saw coming. The pick that made Sam Presti a boy wonder genius. So Kevin Durant had zero guilt about leaving Sam Presti high and dry, or maybe low and dry. Presti lost Kevin Durant without getting a thing in return. Presti was stuck with Russ. But guess what happened? Aha! Right on schedule, Russell Westbrook discovered this stat called a triple-double. I don't think Russ had ever thought about triple-doubles, but one night it dawned on him. He realized that if he drove hell-bent to the basket, the way he can explode to the hoop. And if he drew 2 defenders, and at the last second he just dropped the ball on the floor behind him so that Steven Adams, Cantor, could just dunk it, that Russ gets what's called an assist for that. And if you pile up enough of those in a game, you get 10, you could, wait a second, you could start averaging 10 of those a game. Remember, 4.3 in his second year at UCLA, he averaged an assist, and all of a sudden he started averaging 10 assists. And then he realized that if he hustled, if he scratched and clawed and fought his tail off for loose rebounds, loose balls, the way no 6'3" guard ever has in the history of this game, he could maybe average 10 of those a game. Oh, then that works. Wait a second. 10 assists, 10 rebounds. It's easy to score 10 points. I always thought a triple-double should at least require the triple-doubler to score 20 points a game, right? But it's only 10, so that's the easy part. And all of a sudden, Russ without KD was off to the MVP races. He won the most valuable player regular season of the entire NBA without Kevin Durant. And that was sort of the point. He didn't have to share the ball with really anybody except himself. Egomaniacal, Russell Westbrook. And so it was that Russ soon did the impossible. I never thought I would see one human average a triple-double for an entire season. not since Oscar Robertson had done it back in 1963 when the game was much faster up and down. There were more possessions. It was just easier to pile up numbers. See Wilt Chamberlain. But even more astonishing to me, Russ didn't just do it once. He did it 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 years? That is impossible. His mystique off those 4 out of 5 got etched in Mount Rushmore stone. I'm not saying he's a top 4 player all time, obviously, but I'm talking about the awe that he detonated and generated. The awe, the mystique, the aura was top 4 all time. It was Mount Rushmore stuff. There was Wilt's scoring and rebounding that I just mentioned. And there was obviously Dr. J's leaping. That was revolutionary. There was Michael Jordan's winning. 6 finals MVPs, 6-0 in the finals. And then when it came to just detonating awe, mystique, aura, there was Russ's 4 triple-doubles in 5 years. It's impossible. But the truth was that Russell Westbrook had simply turned himself into the all-time solo act stat machine. That's what happened. That is how he became a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. That is how he became a member of the NBA's 75th anniversary all-time best 75 players. For me, it was mind-boggling because the harder I looked at Russell Westbrook, the less I saw of a basketball player. And yet, would you believe that LeBron James, highest IQ in basketball, you could argue highest IQ ever, I don't know, we could throw Magic in there, Stockton, Jason Kidd, I don't know, all the great point guards, but LeBron's is at the top of the list. In today's NBA, he is the smartest basketball player going. Would you believe he took the bait? Would you believe he campaigned for the Lakers to go get Russ? What? He didn't want a great shooter and Buddy Hield. He wanted Russ. Yeah, let's let Russ be Russ. Let's be careful what you wish for. Remember, LeBron at the beginning even started blessing Russ at the tip-off. Remember when the ball got back tapped to LeBron? Back on the far free throw line? LeBron would then hike it between his legs to Russ as if he was hiking the keys to the Laker kingdom to Russ, as if he was saying, here, you run the show, Russ. Just be Russ. Be careful. I said going in it would be a disaster. It was even worse than I thought it was going to be. For LeBron, it was a nightmare of a 1 3/4 disaster. It was Russell Westbrook's dream come true to come home to LA, where he grew up. And yet it became his worst nightmare because right away that first year, Russell Westbrook led the league in turnovers. All the way to the last 3 games when he sat and didn't play, and it slipped away from him. He finished only second in turnovers. But the whole bulk of the year, 79 games, he led the league in turnovers. But these weren't just any old garden variety turnovers. These were turnovers that were so out of control, so inexplicably, shockingly, laughably bad, so demoralizingly bad for LeBron James and the Lakers and their coaches, that Russell Westbrook single-handedly tore the heart out of that team a year ago. Single-handedly. These were turnovers so comically bad on a nightly basis that on a daily basis on Undisputed, we put together Russell Westbrook turnover blooper reels set to clown music. They were that bad. The clown music worked. It fit. It wasn't a cheap shot. It wasn't a low blow. It was perfect. It fit. Worse, Russell Westbrook last year, first year as a Laker, he finished dead last in the entire NBA in three-point shooting. Dead last. He finished third to last in free throw shooting. So wait a second. It got so bad at what I now call the Crypt, what used to be Staples, the Lakers arena, that when Russ went into his shooting motion from three, the entire arena full of Laker fans would collectively groan, no, no. It was that bad. He was that bad. I've never seen anything like it before. So you've got leading the league in turnovers, worst in three-point shooting, almost the worst in free throw shooting. You've got triple jeopardy. You got Lakers missing the playoffs, in large part because of Russ. It's just debilitating to the psyche of a man like LeBron James. I have to watch this every night. It just crushes your basketball soul. It crushed mine just to have to watch it. Got to the point where Russell Westbrook, for me, was must-see TV because I'm on the edge of the seat when he went into attack mode. Bam, 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 down the lane. One or two things was going to happen. He was either going to get to the rack and slam it on somebody, pull something off, we'd say, whoa, that was pretty great, Russ. Or the ball was going to go flying out of the worst hands of any point guard I've ever seen on church league, middle school, high school, college, or pro level. Worst hands I've ever seen. Just crazy, wild hands. Can't find the handle. The ball is flying everywhere. And he's tearing the basketball soul out of a team featuring LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Never seen anything like it. So here's the final point about first ballot, slam dunk Hall of Famer Russell Westbrook. He's all me and no we. The final point, the final nail in the coffin of the Lakers was that Russ lost no sleep over this. I've never seen a player have less shame for committing such abominable turnovers as Russ. It didn't bother him a bit. He just shrug and go to the other end of the court and have no memory. He had like great NFL cornerback memory, which is no memory. You got to forget what just happened, play the next play. I mean, I guess it's admirable unless you're his teammate or his coach or his GM or his owner, because you want him to show a little shame, just a little contrition, a little remorse for what just happened. But Russell Westbrook has loser intangibles. It's not about winning. It's about starring. It's about statting. You just can't overcome it. It's impossible to win with Russell Westbrook at the NBA level. So the entire last offseason, as you well remember, the whole narrative was Lakers are stuck with Russ because nobody was going to trade for him or deal for him. Nobody wanted to have to swallow his $47 million that he was making. So then as we entered this current season, early in the season, back in November, Darvin Ham made it be known, well, I got a new plan. I'm going to bring Russ off the bench. And preseason game, he tried bringing Russ off the bench. Do you remember what Russ did? He completely rebelled. He said, I can't do this. My body doesn't function right. What do? Go ride the bike to get ready? Mid-first quarter to go in the game? He threw a fit. He threw a tantrum. He was impossible to deal with. And for the opening night game, Darvin Ham gave up, and I thought let Russ run right back over him, Darvin Ham being a first-year head coach, and he started Russ. I thought the plan was to bring him off the bench. So I was critical on Undisputed of Darvin Ham, saying you can't let him run over you like that as a first-year head coach. And Darvin did not like it. And in fact, Darvin Ham called me at home on a Friday night. I'd gone to sleep because I'd get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Friday night's early to bed. If I make it to 10, it's late. But when I got up Saturday morning, I had a message to call Darvin Ham, which I immediately did. Missed him. He was at practice, and then he called me back in the afternoon. We had a long, very good, productive talk, got to know each other a little bit over the phone, but it was all about Russ. And I spent that whole day talking and thinking about Russ. Am I right about Russ? Yes, I think I'm right about Russ. I didn't mean to run over Darvin Ham, but he let Russ run over him. And then the next thing I know, he finally was able to break through and convince Russ, hey, you want to really cinch your first ballot Hall of Fameness? Go win the Sixth Man of the Year award. Let me bring you off the bench just 4 or 5 minutes into the game and watch what happens. And there was, I don't know, a couple, 3 months in there when it seemed to work. And it felt like Russ was running away with Sixth Man of the Year. No. It really wasn't working, because by the time the miracle occurred and they got out from under Russ, remember it was the last game he played was the night LeBron passed Kareem for the all-time scoring record. The Lakers that night fell to 5 games under 500. You just can't win with Russell Westbrook. But that miracle did occur, a miracle I didn't see coming. Utah opted to trade for Russ and then completely buy him out with what was left of his $47 million. No 75 cents on the dollar. Buy him out. He made it all. And I seriously wondered if any team would have any use for Russ, even for free, for the rest of the year. And there it came. Then it happened. I was blindsided. I was dumbfounded when the team I picked to win it all said, yeah, we'll take Russ because we need Russ. You what? Paul George. He said he had his best regular season ever playing alongside Russ in Oklahoma City. He said the Clippers need a floor general. He was the one who campaigned the hardest for adding Russ. And I'm saying, a what? You mean you need a court jester, not a floor general, right? A court jester. I've seen too much. He's in his 14th season. I've seen too much. I know what I'm talking about here. Surely Kawhi Leonard said no, because remember the infamous phone call that Russ made when Kawhi opted not to choose LeBron and the Lakers, but went to the Clippers. He needed a co-star, a running mate. And he chose Paul George out of Oklahoma City, so they went and got Paul George. But Russ reportedly called and left Kawhi a message, come get me. I'll be your running mate. I want to go home to LA. Reportedly, Kawhi did not return his call. I wonder if even now Kawhi wants to return his call, because now he's stuck with the Russ problem, the Russ nightmare. Who signed off on this? I am still mystified. Was it Ty Lue, a coach I have the highest respect for? Was it Lawrence Frank, the GM? Was it Jerry West, the advisor? Is it Steve Ballmer, the owner? I have no idea. Obviously, Ty Lue and Jerry West don't like the Lakers because they have axes to grind against the Lakers. And I'm sure Ballmer and Lawrence Frank just don't like the Lakers because they're the freaking Lakers. They're the kings of LA. But I'm just convinced that all those guys got together and collectively finally decided they would just show LeBron and the Lakers they will make Russell Westbrook work for them and with them in ways the Lakers failed to. This was all about their pride versus Lakers. This is pride goeth before the fall, as the Bible said. They will fall because they have fallen for Russell Westbrook. His triple-double mystique, his aura, his reputation. Just not worth it, not worth the trouble. Yes, he'll play hard. He'll play hard for Russell Westbrook. Clippers fell right into the same Russell Westbrook trap that the Lakers somehow escaped. I cannot fathom that. I cannot get that through my head. I picked the Clippers to win it all, and now they're stuck with Russ. He is a misleading fraud of a first ballot Hall of Famer. He plays basketball like a bull in a china shop. He is uncoachable. He is dangerously delusional about his greatness. First game with the Clippers. It was against Sacramento, the one that went 2 overtimes, the classic. Remember, the Clippers are up 14 with 4 minutes left at home. Up 14 with 4 minutes left with the new floor general on the floor. Did he general them home? I think not. They were up 6 in the first overtime. Did he general them home to Vic? No, he did not. He fouled out. And then they blew it in the second overtime. And it was a great game to watch, but they lost. Then the other night in Denver, Ty Lue said, okay, watch this. I'm still in charge here. So he didn't like the way Russ was playing. Russ was a little wild-handed. He did like the way that the 5 on the floor caught a rhythm in the fourth quarter. This is at Denver, who has the best home record in the NBA. So he didn't play Russ the whole fourth quarter or what became overtime. Didn't play him at all. And they came from 9 down at Denver to force overtime. And then here you go, you're damned if you do or don't. The 5 on the floor just ran out of mile-high gas. They just hit the wall. They went 0 for 5 in the overtime, and everybody said on Clippers Twitter, what are you doing, Ty? Put Russ back in the game. Well, easy second guess, easy 20/20 hindsight. No. They played great without him. That was the point. And yet, what did he do? The whole time he was out, he went and sat at the very end of the bench, and he pouted when he didn't get back in the game in the fourth quarter. You can't win with him. The whole bench would stand up and cheer when Kawhi would hit another 3 in the fourth quarter, but not Russ. No, he's too good for that. First ballot Hall of Famer. Third game he played the other night. Ty Lue says, okay, I'll put him back in with 4:25 to go against Minnesota. Horrendous turnover. Horrendous out-of-control drive to the basket. Flipped it wildly to Big Zoo, who fumbled it and turned it over. Missed a 12-foot shot in the lane. You can't fathom why he was taking it. Almost missed the rim wide left on that shot. It's just impossible to win with him. Ty Lue now has a Russell Westbrook problem just the way Darvin Ham had one. Trust me, Darvin Ham is sleeping much better now. But the point is, now I have a Russell Westbrook problem. I try my damnedest to root for the Clippers now, and I just can't because I can't root for Russ. I hope I'm wrong about this, like right, wrong, wrong, right. But it's unbelievable. He haunts me again. Russell and his wife have fired back at me on Twitter for calling him Westbrook. They say I have no respect for his surname. I do respect his name. I just have lost all respect for his game within the confines of the basketball court. That's all. It's nothing personal. I don't know Russ. I don't care to know Russ. I'm just responding to what I see on the floor and then on the bench. But you want to know the truth in the end? Russell Westbrook has gotten even with me because Russell Westbrook is now a Los Angeles Clipper. This is so Clippers. This is so LA stepchild. This is so team in the basement at the crypt. This is so not what I saw coming. Russ a Clipper? No! Let's get to your question, shall we? This is Willie from Houston who asked, do you already miss the NFL? Well, Willie, sure I miss the NFL as in the NFL games. Super Bowl is past, it's gone. I still haven't gotten over it, but it's over. But Willie, here's the point. I know for us on Undisputed, the NFL has become a 365-day sport. Here comes the combine. Here comes free agency. Here comes Bryce Young versus Justin Fields. Chicago, what are you going to do in the draft? You better take Bryce Young. He is special. Justin Fields is not special. He's a special runner, but that's not going to run you to a Super Bowl. you take Bryce Young. See, I'm already getting worked up. Aaron Rodgers, it's going to become the story of the offseason. Where will he wind up? Will Green Bay still be stuck with him? I have proposed this, and I reiterate, in a heartbeat, I would trade Dak Prescott straight up for Aaron Rodgers and never look back. I've seen enough of Dak. I'm done with Dak. I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but he has haunted me in ways even beyond what Russell Westbrook has done as far as beating me in big games as a Green Bay Packer. So would I take Aaron Rodgers for the last 2 years of his career, 39 and 40, just to see if he could have a late career rebirth in Dallas? Sure, I would. I'll take that over Dak any day. At least I got some new hope. By the way, did you see the Stephen Jones quotes the other day that I have to live with? He says, I've got all the faith in the world. We can win this thing with Dak. This is Stephen, Jerry's son, obviously. Stephen goes on to say, leadership skills are undeniable. He says, work ethic is the best I've ever seen. Impeccable, he said. And then Stephen Jones goes on to say, other than he hadn't won some key playoff games, he's everything you want in a quarterback. What? Time out. Stephen, stop. Other than he hadn't won some key playoff games, is everything you don't want in a quarterback. And you're saying he's everything you do want? Well, that's the one thing you don't want. That's the key thing you don't want. And it's almost like the old cliched response. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Well, you can ask me how was the play. Well, we lost. We lost at San Francisco. That's how the play was. So I'm sorry, I'm done with Jerry and Stephen Jones trying to bamboozle me for another offseason. I'm done with them trying to sell more ice to this Eskimo sitting right here. Because I am lost in this endless, bleak winter of a wasteland of January failure for my Dallas Cowboys featuring Rain Dakota Prescott. And one other thing before I finish, Willie from Houston. There is one other reason that I already do miss the NFL, and that is I already miss LeBron James. Next question. Alan from Oakland, California asks, would you rather have Dame or LeBron taking the final shot for your team? Great, tough question. Definitely Dame. Although I must say, as I do occasionally on Undisputed, and Dame does not like me saying this, forgive me, Dame. His Dame time reputation is a little overblown and overhyped because it's not all that. He has made some big key playoff shots. See one against Oklahoma City, see one against the Rockets. But he has missed a whole lot of others. A whole lot of others. I don't have time. I won't take your time to go chapter and verse on you, but those 2019 Western Conference Finals, when he had his moment, he had his time, he and CJ were up against Steph and Clay. There's no Kevin Durant. They had chances to win all four of those games going into the fourth quarter. All four very close. Either they were slightly ahead or slightly behind. And Dame, in those four fourth quarters, went 5 of 17 from three. 5 of 17. And this is just me, but I can never forget the Clippers in the bubble in one of those final regular season games on a Saturday afternoon down in Orlando, clowning Dame for missing 2 free throws late in the game. All of them starting with Pat Bev, then a Clipper pounding their wrists as in Dame time, mocking, clowning, Dame time. Would anybody do that to Kevin Durant? Well, he wouldn't miss the late free throws. Back in the day, would anybody have clowned Michael Jordan for missing a late free throw or Bird or Magic? No, they would not. So I'm not sure the players themselves have the kind of respect for Dame time that many fans do. Then again, I'll say it again, since LeBron came into this league, nobody has missed more clutch shots. Late game, close game, clutch shots than LeBron James. Nobody, not even close. Nobody is close to LeBron in missing late game, close game, clutch free throws, not even close. So, sorry, great player, not born with clutch gene. So, one shot for my life, slight edge, Dame time. This is Neil from Oklahoma, my home state. What combo of players would make up the best starting five in the NBA at this moment? So I'm going to interpret that question, which I love, Neil, to mean if I had to pick five players right now to go win me the championship, a five that would work together, blend together, be united and unified, that would fit, who would my five be? Okay, let's do it. I just mentioned Kevin Durant. He would be number one on my list. Never seen anything like him as a 7-foot mid-range jump shooter. Number two on my list is the guy I keep pushing for MVP, Joel Embiid. He's a 7-foot monster who much of the year has led the league in scoring, high in rebounding, high in block shots, high in defensive stats. The first pick LeBron took in the All-Star draft was Joel Embiid. The last pick that LeBron took in the All-Star draft was Nikola Jokic. Yet my partner, Shannon Sharp, on Undisputed keeps telling me Jokic is going to win his third MVP, and he probably will because that's actually the new narrative and the better sort of fairy tale story than Joel Embiid. The media does not like Joel Embiid because he's been hurt too much. He's been out of sorts too much. He's had too many stomach aches. I still have the highest regard for Joel Embiid's ability, and so far this year, he has not been hurt or sick. He would be my second starter. Steph Curry would be my next starter because he revolutionized the game as a starter, and I thought he played at the highest, supremest level in the NBA Finals in which he was MVP, except for fourth quarters when he's another one who can come up even smaller than he is when it matters most. But I got Kevin Durant to make clutch shots. I got Joel Embiid, who's one of the better clutch takers and makers in this league. And now for my fourth spot, I need a wing. I need a James Worthy Memorials type player like Magic had in Showtime to sort of run the break with, a Karl Malone type, a very athletic scorer, defender. And I'm torn on this one just because I personally, as much as I love Kawhi Leonard, I don't trust his chronic knee. They are chronic. I know from the inside out. My information is impeccable. His knees are a problem, and I don't know if they're going to stand up. So far here down the stretch, they have stood up. And if they do, I would have to go Kawhi for this slot. But every time I watch Boston, I know everybody's a Jason Tatum fan. I'm a huge fan of his off the floor as well as on. But the player who scares me the most when I watch Boston is Jaylen Brown. And I would be tempted just on pure health and sort of youth to take Jaylen Brown. But at the moment, if we can agree here that Kawhi is going to be healthy, then Kawhi would take that forward spot for me, that wing spot. And Kawhi used to defend at the highest level. I think he just rests on defense now because he's resting his knees. And that brings me to my point guard. Still the best passer in basketball. Still the highest IQ in basketball. My point guard would be one LeBron James. There, I said it. Shock of shocks. I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. He can be, as you know, a drama king. If I get to coach and I can ask LeBron to cool it on the three-point shots because you're ranked near the bottom of the league in three-point shooting, just distribute, just orchestrate, run the show, and then when needed, play bully ball because nobody can play bully ball better than 6'9", 260-pound LeBron. Look at those shoulders. Looks like he's 22, just physically. So that's my five. KD, Embiid, Steph, Kawhi, and LeBron. And I will kick your behind. This is Romeo from Tennessee, who asks, who got all your debating when you were off TV last week? Very good question. not my wife Ernestine, not my quote unquote daughter Hazel, our now 6-year-old Maltese. I promised both, cool it on the sports. Ernestine did watch the 3-point shootout with me because that's her favorite event of the year. She can see their faces, and the rules are pretty simple. The ball either goes in or it doesn't, and she loves it. And so do I. But my outlet, my escape hatch, was provided by my brother, Lil Wayne. I scratched my itch on occasion by texting or calling Lil Wayne to talk just a little bit of sports. Ernestine allowed me just a little here and there. We went on a couple of big texting jags back and forth, feeding off each other. He is a sports savant. I will say it again. Outside of my knowledge, the sports knowledge I respect the most, the knowledge that inspires me the deepest, that detonates my thought, is Lil Wayne's. We went back and forth on Aaron Rodgers one day. We went back and forth on what we both agreed was the game of the year, which was Clippers losing to Kings 176-175. We talked a couple of times. We were scheduled this past Saturday to drive out from our place in West LA to Wayne's out in the San Fernando Valley. And it rained cats and frogs all day long. It rained frogs. I've never seen anything like it. I think it's still raining as I tape this right now. Just rained and rained and rained. Ernestine, who's the smarter of the two of us, said, we just can't risk it today. There's flash flood warnings all over the freeways. And I said, no, we'll be okay. We can pull this off. We'll figure it out. I texted Wayne Friday night. I said, there's a chance Ernestine's just going to say no. So we're trying to get there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, stay for a couple of hours. We've done this numerous times. And at the last second, Ernestine said, okay, let's try it. She even wanted to drive, but she wouldn't even trust me to drive. But the point was, at 1 o'clock, I text Wayne, we're going to try to make it by 2, but can't even count on that because it's so many floods. And he had decided that there was no way my wife, with whom he is very close, knows her at least as well as I do, he thought that Ernestine would flat out say no, and he did something else. He took his transportation, his Sprinter that he uses, all the way to downtown LA to get his hair washed and braided. And that took a while, and so we were off kilter, and we decided finally it's just not going to work today. Let's do it next week. So this coming Saturday, we plan to go out at 2 o'clock as we were past 1. But quick other thought here, quick review for you. Ernestine and Hazel and I did watch a whole bunch of movies, several series that we have neglected. Most notably, The Last of Us. Do you know it? It seems to be all the rage. We watched the first and second episodes. We're late to the party. So that was the first, say, 2 hours and 20 minutes of that series. We were highly impressed. It is rivetingly well shot and done and written. Pedro Pascal is a leading man. He just commands the screen. But here's what happened to both Ernestine and me right on schedule simultaneously. After 2 hours and 20 minutes, we looked up at each other and we agreed enough. So for us, The Last of Us was 2 hours and 20 minutes because it's just too soon after what we all just went through. It's just too real. It's just too possible. 3 years ago, I could not have imagined that a virus would shut down the entire world, shut down the world as we knew it, shut this place down that I'm in right now, confine us to home, I couldn't have imagined that happening in all my years on this planet, but it happened. And it went on and on and on. And I got that virus twice. My wife escaped it. She is something, my wife. But not only could it happen again, next time it could be worse. Next time it could be The Last of Us. So for me, that series, in the end, is just pure horror. And I just couldn't subject myself to any more of it, as great as it was. Last item. As I tape this, a young man named Antoine Davis is on the verge of going LeBron on college basketball, of breaking the all-time NCAA basketball scoring record. Antoine plays for his father, Mike Davis, at Detroit Mercy. I was always a big fan of Mike Davis, who you might remember replaced Bobby Knight at Indiana. He coached the 2002 Hoosiers to the national championship game, though those Hoosiers did lose to Maryland. But I bring all this up because of the man whose record Antoine Davis is on the verge of breaking. That man was Pete Maravich, my basketball idol. Not to take anything away from Antoine's astonishing achievement of rising in range of this record, but I must defend my man, Pistol Pete. May he rest in peace. To this day, I have never ever seen anything on a basketball court like Pete Maravich. When it came to trick shot making. I mentioned Meadowlark Lemon of the Globetrotters. He was equally magical to me, but his trick shots came in exhibitions against what were called the Washington Generals, the team that toured with them and lost to them on a nightly basis as their set decoration. Meadowlark didn't play real games and make real shots. Pistol Pete did. In only 3 years at LSU, because freshmen were not allowed in those days to play varsity basketball, in only 3 years, Pete Maravich averaged 44.2 points per game against SEC competition for 83 games. 44.2 for 83 games. And that was at a time when there was no three-point line and no shot clock. No shot clock to prevent opponents from playing endless keep away from Pete Maravich. Trust me, I know because I saw. Pete Maravich took shots from Steph range, from Dame logo range, and they only counted 2 points, but he took them often. With a three-point line, Pete would have averaged at least 60 points a game. He was 6 feet 5 inches tall. By the way, Antoine Davis is only 6'1", so what an achievement for that young man. But Antoine Davis is playing in his 5th collegiate season at Detroit Mercy. A 5th season he was allowed because of the aforementioned COVID. So Antoine has averaged 25.3 points per game for 143 games. So he has played 60 more games than Pete did at LSU. 60 more games and counting. So if you think about it, in his 5 collegiate years, Antoine has made 584 three-point shots. So that's an extra 584 points right there because Pete didn't have a three-point line. By the way, of all the shots that Antoine has made, 48% are three-point shots. So you can see pretty big advantage, Antoine. These are the same three-point shots that Pete regularly took. I don't have a stat on it because nobody could keep a stat because nobody even knew what the three-point line was. So I don't know how many actual threes that he attempted or made. But here's the point. Where did Mike Davis's son Antoine learn basketball from? Well, his father, coach Mike, said, and I'm a big fan of Mike Davis. His father told him that you gotta watch Pete Maravich videos, his instructional videos. You can see them right now. Just they're all over YouTube. Check them out. See what you think. Genius, basketball genius. Now, Pete also played for his father named Press Maravich at LSU. So you could argue that both Antoine and Pete had two of the greenest lights ever because of their proud papas. Fair. But Pete Maravich worked so obsessively with the drills that he created that after a while, it looked like the basketball actually became part of his hand, like it was another appendage at the end of his fingers. I've never seen anything like it before. Just look it up. Watch it on YouTube. I know this because I actually got to see Pete play live 5 different times. First 3 came in what was called, as I mentioned earlier, the annual all-college tournament in Oklahoma City, my hometown. It lured in many of the best teams over the years. But the first night of that tournament was always just after Christmas, before New Year's. The first night of that tournament in 1968 was on December 26th, and an ice storm hit Oklahoma City and shut it down. Roads impassable. But Pete was coming. Pete was going to play that night against Wyoming. LSU versus Wyoming, and in my 1965 Mustang, my first car, I drove my friend Bruce Scott all the way down to the State Fair Arena to see Pete. I was 16. I was a sophomore in high school. I had had my license for a grand total of 3 weeks, and I went slipping and sliding down May Avenue in Oklahoma City all the way to the fairgrounds, narrowly avoiding 15 different little collisions, fender bangers, because we had to see this inhuman human, Pete Maravich, who to us was even bigger than any of the Beatles. And he did not disappoint. We got there just in time for the opening tip, which was back tipped to Pete Maravich, who was standing at the far free throw line from his basket. And in one motion, I am not exaggerating, he caught the back tip. He caught the tip, and he whipped it all the way behind his back, 3/4 court, and hit a breaking teammate right in the hands for a layup, an uncontested layup. I'd never seen anything like it before, but I saw it with these own 2 eyes. Took my breath away. I watched him score 45 that night against Wyoming, 40 the next night against Oklahoma City University, and 53 the next night in the championship game against Duquesne. Pete wore long, floppy socks that fell down to the top of his sneakers. He wore long, floppy hair that in those days made him look like a rebellious hippie freak, and he was a freak. He played at this weird herky-jerky gait that reminds me a lot of what Luka does today in the lane, only Pete was much quicker than Luka, much deadlier shooter from distance, and much springier than Luka. I think Luka tried to dunk one time and barely pulled it off. But listen, Pete Maravich could flat out sky at 6'5". Sky like Mac McClung skied to win the slam dunk contest, except 4 inches taller than 6'1" Mac. 2 or 3 times a game, Pete Maravich would hit his teammates in the face with passes because they just didn't see the ball coming the way he pulled it off. And 2 or 3 times a game, he invented shots the likes of which I just never seen. To this day, he pulled off shots where I just say, I don't know how a human could even fathom attempting to pull that shot off, and he would pull it off. It was like Pete Maravich was from another planet. It was like he was an alien with supernatural powers. I was in awe. I would go back to our gym at Northwest Class in high school and try some of the shots I watched Pete pull off and make myself look like a fool. I saw him again at Vanderbilt, where I went to school. That game was an event in Nashville, let me tell you. I also saw him in a preseason game in Nashville after he'd been drafted 3rd overall by the Atlanta Hawks. Pete played for only bad teams in Atlanta and New Orleans. He did lead the league in scoring in 1977 at 31 a game. He did score 68 that year against the Knicks. But he struggled to live up to the world's expectations of his supernatural powers, and he began to fight alcoholism, which wrecked the rest of his career, and he retired at 32. In 1984, I got to interview Pete Maravich about his newfound sobriety. He'd become a quiet, humble man, so different than his mold-shattering college image. And in 1988, at the ripe old age of 40, Pete Maravich died of a heart attack while playing a pickup game out here in Southern California in Pasadena. At least he went while doing what made him the happiest. Thank you, Pete Maravich, for the most magical memories of my sports watching life. That's it for episode 54. Thank you for listening and or watching. Thanks to Jonathan Berger and his all-pro team for making this show go. Thanks to Tyler Korn for producing. Remember, please, Undisputed every weekday, 9:30 to noon Eastern. The Skip Bayless Show every week.